Richard Walker, Chair Professor in the Department of Government and International Affairs at Lingnan University. Public administration is an interdisciplinary area of research in applied social science. It's been referred to as a design science by Herbert Simon, who is a Nobel laureate of economics but worked in a public administration department. So what that means is we're drawing in our discipline on sociology, economics, political science, psychology, and so forth, to address real-world problems. Real-world impact's quite challenging as an academic. I published a piece recently looking at differences between academic literature and practice literature. We use some computational techniques, corpus linguistics, to actually analyse and identify topics that academics write about and that practitioners write about. We found I think it was 87% difference. So the world's moved on partly as universities have become more sort of professional, focused on citation methods, asking novel and important questions. But that doesn't mean to say this doesn't happen in a number of different ways. So with my work, for example, I've been very fortunate to have a lot of policy citation. My work's been cited in Biden's 2023 budget by the World Bank, OECD, European Union and parliaments in Scandinavia and in Portugal. So people read and use that type of information. Our work is driven academically, but then looking within those subjects, not all are applicable, but looking to understand how these work. So a lot of the faculty in the department work on China in the world, they work on China-African relationships, Belt and Road. So then we look to see how they impact the real world. We work alongside the UN Sustainable Development Goals to identify relevance and look to dive in to give case examples of how we can actually develop a policy and practice better. Citizen participation is a critical concept and action. A lot of my work is on innovation in public services, an important area where we see citizen participation when governments are looking to develop new services and so forth, is by involving citizens. You get the phrase public value, co-creation, co-design as phrases that try and capture this process. There are important examples of this. For example, when local governments work together with citizens in budgeting processes to identify local priorities, to identify how money should be spent, to identify the actual impact, there tends to be much more satisfaction, much more acceptance of what a local government is doing, and perhaps it increases trust at the moment when trust in public processes is perhaps less than it has been. Lingnan is unique in Hong Kong. Its origins as a liberal arts university, it was the only university based around that model in Hong Kong. And what that means here is that the student interface is much stronger than other universities I've worked at in Hong Kong. Teaching matters, classes are small, classes are very engaging, and that means we're able to develop students, not just technically in their academic work, but to help them grow as students and adults as they enter the workplace. And that creates a community and a network that is perhaps different from other places and allows us to think outside the box, working with students regularly in these ways to give you challenges and opportunities. Other universities in Hong Kong don't teach as much what's called common core education, but that gives the students the breadth, a foundation across disciplines. So in my faculty of social science, students are studying economics, sociology, psychology, and politics. That's also then surrounded by a range, you call them, of soft skills, but also requirements at Lingnan for every student to be engaged and undertake classes in generative AI. So we get that real blend between those soft skills, but also equipping students for that world. And that moves on through our major. We recently introduced classes sort of in computational social sciences, which are using these techniques to analyse larger data than would be typically understood and looked at within the discipline. But also gives a range of strengths because it builds on that liberal arts tradition, but allows them to drill down in detail in the major that they're examining. There's a massive amount of support to students and faculty for AI education. That's unusual. In other universities I've visited, students don't get involved in these education opportunities as much as they do here. So they're seeing the learning process as well. That doesn't bleed in, it complements, because if you think about the disciplines we're teaching in the social sciences, digital world is where it is going. So as long as we maintain a foundation of sort of core knowledge and core skills, I think only by adding a digital education to that, you provide a much stronger graduate, as it were, with the skills to face the modern world.